highlighted that point. Mike one time highlighted the point that it's important for us to like align on what exactly we want to take out or learn from the user validation. Which questions do we want to answer? So yeah, I guess to your point, to your questions that you raised earlier, it's very important for us to align on those and like clearly be on the same page with the goal of why we are doing research and what exactly we want to learn out of that. So thanks for bringing those questions.
No problem. Thanks. And let's see, like I have two other researches that are currently in progress. There's the user research for post-deployment monitoring. As far as I see, that is well on the way. Is there any further help needed on that? Just checking in here. Mostly looking at you, Orid and Lori, as you have been most involved there.
I don't think anyone was recruited yet for this research.
No, I don't think so. And
That's
I'm not doing it. I think
I'm
Orid's gonna, yeah, she's gonna do it, but I don't think anybody was yet.
The recruitment issue is correctly assigned, right? Like it was completed and I have assigned it to Emily van Hoffman and she will attend to the recruitment as soon as she can, right?
That is what she is supposed to do. So I don't know where it's falling in her schedule. So somebody probably needs to check in with her and see when she thinks she'll get to it.
Super excited about this user research. First of all, some of the questions have come up in different researches and we can add a bullet here for Spinnaker, which I'll talk about in a minute. Super cool that engineering finished their research and it looks like we can do it. We can work with what we already have in place in monitoring and build on top of that and trigger things from the pipeline. So we're really good to go and just make this really awesome. And once we figure out, my initial research is going to be around what are the important metrics that we want to collect and have something actionable on them. And then are the users interested in just stopping rollback and manually rolling back, or do they want automatic rollback? So that's kind of the areas what I'm looking for in my research. But I think there's going to be a step 2 here, which is going to be solution validation, because I already just today opened like 5 issues just from the engineering research outcome. And there's a ton of things that we want to add to the pipeline, to the jobs page, to the deployment boards. So there's so much work here that I think we need to do a solution validation, come up with several options and see that users understand what's going on once we get to the solution phase. So I anticipate that coming up probably next quarter.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, we'll get that recruitment figured out first, and then we can for sure look at that.
Yeah.
And then there's the last one, which I was wondering about, which is why are people not using review apps? I came across this.
Could you put it in the backlog? Don't touch it.
Don't touch it, all right.
Don't touch it. We're not going to do anything active at the moment for review apps. The team is totally focused on CD right now. So even though we did a lot of work on the discussion guide, and I don't think we have time to do research at the moment for this, nor do we have time to implement it. So I don't think we need to touch it. But if we're already on the topic of user research, let's talk about Spinnaker, our favorite subject. So I talked to 2 customers. There's 2 customer interviews, confidential issues that I attached. So Jackie talked to one, and I talked to one that is attached to the user research issue, and someone that I have never spoken to today also offered to help recruit people through LinkedIn. So maybe we'll get some more candidates. I'm still leaving this issue open because it's just really important for me to understand why we're losing business to Spinnaker. And I get really, really good feedback from one of the customers that I interviewed. That you can see the video, but I also posted the summary of the insights as a separate issue like Lori does. I hope I did you justice. So really interesting. It looks like we're missing some functionality. Like the top thing that this specific customer, and again, one is not an indication of anything, but what they were saying was that Spinnaker's pipelines are super flexible. They don't use resources. They just wait till they get triggers, and they don't poll all the time. So there's definitely a lot of things that we can learn from there and improve our product. So I think it's worthwhile to look into it. And I didn't get through all the questions, unfortunately.
Thanks. Has there been done a proper competitive analysis there?
When you say proper, what do you mean? What
Yeah,
do you mean
sorry,
by proper?
Like as in an official competitive analysis versus.
Yes, I did a
like
competitive
quick
analysis.
comparison.
I did a competitive analysis previous quarter. There's an issue linked to it. It's called "What Can We Learn from Spinnaker?" There's a bunch of screenshots that I added there, including issues that I opened up, implementation issues, plus the content that I learned has been added to the competitive page. And Mark has also added like insights from what he thought are to make a long story short, there's not such a big feature gap between us and Spinnaker, but they have a different concept and way. So it's really interesting in terms of UX. The way they approach it is different. And it's like they treat the CD part as a first-class citizen. And for us, it's kind of like this is the end of the pipeline. And it's like a continuation of CI. So a lot of things are hidden. You really need to know your stuff, like what you're doing in order to get something deployed correctly. And they kind of approach it very differently. So I don't know, it's a huge topic to tackle. An interesting one, but a huge one. So that was also added to the comparison page. It's also listed in the direction page for CD. The only thing that I haven't properly done to do it is I had planned to record a competitive analysis walkthrough of Spinnaker, and I had such a hard time getting it operational that I just gave up, which is also like a good sign for GitLab because it's easy to set up. But I spent like weeks getting it up and running in AWS, only to have, whenever I pressed any button, I got an error that I couldn't figure out how to solve. So I couldn't properly do any workflow in Spinnaker. I don't know if that answers the question that's proper, because I really wanted to do like, here's how you deploy in GitLab versus here's how you deploy in Spinnaker, but I couldn't get that running. So.
Gotcha, thanks. It's interesting for it to see that they have, they treat CD as a first-class citizen. Was talking today with Rayana, and I need to react to some issue from security, who is thinking about making some kind of our security pipeline as a separate pipeline. I don't know. There were some things that UX is figuring out there, and
yeah, I actually mentioned that on last week's call, that I was thinking of going nuts and separating a GitLab CD YAML from the CI YAML. But that's like just still floating around in my mind. I don't want to do anything actionable before we have so much on our plate right now. But I do think it's a really good idea. CI is enormous, and I think that having a separate YAML file, now it's possible because we support parent-child pipeline, so we can probably like utilize that kind of mechanism in order to have like, just the next step in the YAML. But also it gives you the flexibility to have several different deployment targets that you can call, and then you can decide if you want to like do multiple deployments to different clouds or just one. And there's a lot of flexibility to it, so I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. At least I think it's gonna matter in terms of conceptual overview of your, development pipeline. But is that what is needed? Yes or no? I don't know.
I don't know. Right now, it's in terms of a cool idea. I haven't heard any customer ask for it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll stay standby on that. It seems this is on the way, and then there's no immediate next actions needed on it, or is there? are there?
No, not at the moment. I mean, I think at some point we would want to explore that because the YAML doesn't allow nesting, and this might give that option. But think of this as an iteration. So first iteration, we have all in one script, one YAML file, all the stages, build, test, deploy. And then another iteration would be, taking that out to a separate YAML. So I'm really fine with the way it works now. I think in the future, it's something to explore.
Gotcha, thanks. Then I want to quickly give an overview of my, what is currently in progress. Let me share my screen. Let's see if I'm doing this right. Too many windows open.
I like the question about the fruit voting system.
I came across it, I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like being silly, but I can explain it.
It's like, where's this? Okay, wait. Before we get to that, let's get this under the way. Let's make this a little bit more clear. In progress, I got A/B testing, of course. Allow deploy keys to push to protected branches. Those are already in there. Then I have added rollout of new feature flags. Let me see. It's support for canary where there's more like a standby issue where I need to react to. This is another issue. Basically those three. No longer possible to edit deploy keys / deploy the code tokens without enabling pipelines. Show error rate threshold exceed on deploy board and roll out new feature flags. This one I just added, by the way, to have more of a view on. I wanted to align, see if it's like how you feel about me working on those issues currently, or is there a big issue missing of me? Because I got these issues still in up next. Maybe I need to swap out some of these on where I'm currently working on, where I'm working on next.
So the deploy keys is super critical because it's a rollback. It's a bug that we introduced last.
Yeah, it's a regression, right?
Yeah. A/B testing, we talked about it. We really need to get this done because I want to start working on that for Q3. So this is the first step, which is understanding. Then you're going to have quite a bit of work to figure out the UX. I don't know if we might revisit Mike's suggestion based on the research outcome. Next, we have show error rate on deploy board. So this is a really interesting one. This is related to post-deployment monitoring. And I opened like a ton of issues today related to post-deployment monitoring. Could you open the epic that's linked here? Okay, so if you go down to the related issues, I kind of gave milestones to the things. Why don't you see it?
13.0, 13.1, 13.2.
I don't know, your view is a little bit different than mine, but that's fine. So user research for post-deployment, we haven't started yet because this is pending the recruitment that we discussed before. I'll ping Emily on it, but it will probably not be done in 13. This is like the third milestone it slipped because of recruitment. And I understand Emily is a little bit busy, so I'll try to ping her and see what we can do here. In any case, even if I don't get user research, I'm pretty confident about the initial issues that we need to do, so I don't want to stop. So what do we have next? So research, if we can cancel pipeline, this is the one that I said Shinya did an amazing job. He made a demo. It's linked on this issue, and I encourage you to see it. It's really cool. So he tested out our hypothesis that we can use the monitor incidence response mechanism to do it, and he was able to stop the pipeline, which is really exciting. So this opens up all the opportunities for everything that I opened today. So we have on 13.1 show error rate exceeded on deploy board, so it's good that that's year up next because it's the next milestone. And the idea here is that even if Shinya's research would have failed, the minute that the monitoring Prometheus sends in some kind of indication that error rate has exceeded, I want to know. So this doesn't do anything active. It doesn't stop anything. It doesn't roll back. All it does is tell the user you have a problem. And I think that's, there's value to that regardless to the research, regardless to canceling pipeline, regardless to anything. So I'm pretty confident that that's a good way to start. And then after that is cancel incremental rollout if threshold exceeded. So this is the outcome of Shinya's research. And the idea is that we already found there's an error. Now we're going to stop. Okay. So for this initial iteration, I don't think we need any UX work here because basically all we're doing is we're stopping. And on the pipeline level, you'll see a cancel icon, which already exists today. I did ping you on that to make sure that you don't want to change anything. But this is basically just stopping.
Yeah, there's is there not going to be given any feedback when it automatically let me see, cancel incremental rollout. So how are we giving feedback towards the user that this is happening?
So basically for this iteration, there is no feedback. It's just the pipeline stops. It says canceled. I opened another issue that if you go back to the Epic, that says state which metric threshold was crossed on deploy board, and it comes together with, oh, you pressed it. So now.
Yeah, that's the right one, right? State which metric, yeah.
And then there's the next one, which is kind of the same. It's share the cancel pipeline reason on the pipeline. So you saw the pipeline was canceled, and now you press the job page, and it'll tell you this was canceled because error rate exceeded 0.1% or whatever. And I made a note in this issue in the share the cancel pipeline reason that the text needs to be consistent to the one that we have in the state which metric, because basically they're showing the same data.
Yeah, I gotcha. Do we take into account that we already show error, like an error report summary when hovering over a job within, for example, the mini pipeline graph? Like there's other places than just a job view where we're doing error reporting, and we feel that if we're just saying, hey, this pipeline was canceled, my expectation there is that we're going to confuse users as we're not showing any reasoning as to why that was done. Yes, 100%. I mean, yes and no. No, because I totally forgot about the hovering, so we should add an issue for that. But again, I do want to think about this in an iterative way, so I think it's okay for it to go out in the first iteration with a confusing way and fix it the next iteration. So first iteration, we cancel it, and we write in the docs that if you have this defined and a pipeline is canceled, it's pretty much because an error was detected, and you can go to the dashboard linked here and you can see, okay? So everything's just in the docs. And the next iteration is actually give user context. So either in the deploy board or in the, I mean, I don't have a preference where. We can decide this based on how complex it is for the front-end engineers to implement it. So it could be in the deploy board, it can be in the jobs, it can be in the jobs plus the hover, it can be in the log, whatever we decide. But basically, the next iteration is give the user a reason. How will the user know in case that the pipeline is canceled in case of incremental rollout, error rate, threshold exceedation? Can you say it like that? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. That it is like that they have that is the thing that's going on. Like I understand that's in the docs, but like there's a difference between referring to the docs and the user can read what's going on there versus the user has to know what's going on, then has to go to the docs and then find out what's going on.
Yeah, so it's not very intuitive, and I agree, but again, I want to think iteratively, and I don't want to try to develop everything in a one shot, because that just makes our issues enormous. And the way that a user would know that something is wrong is they would see that something is canceled, and they are already monitoring this with Prometheus. This is a prerequisite for this to work. So they can go into the monitoring dashboard and see a spike in the threshold. So it's not given to you like I would like it to be, but I think for our first iteration, it's okay.
Okay, so they have at least some indication or a way to figure out that something like what has gone wrong, that is it. There's the thing
actually,
on like
two ways, sorry. There's another way because since we're building on top of Monitor's incidence response, every time error threshold is crossed, an issue is created automatically. So there will be that issue.
Okay, interesting. All right, that seems good.
Again,
yeah,
it's
I want
not
to
the
at least
best
know that
experience. It's not the best experience because I don't know if I would see a pipeline failing if I would now go look if there's an issue out there that says that I'm like, it's not the best experience, but we know that this is just the first iteration.
Yeah. Let me see. Take it.
So yeah, I pinged you here. I wrote to you. I made an ugly mock-up that needs to be replaced.
That's good. I like any kind of mock-up. Any visual. Give me any visual. Will always improve things a lot. Let me see. So we're on par with that. This is good. Any other of those issues that need to be like I'm on this one and I'm on this one, which seems to be good.
So the other ones don't require, it's all like API based. I don't think it needs like anything at the moment. I do think we need to make a broader discussion about deploy boards because we're making a lot of changes to it. So are the monitor team, so are the CI team. So I think we may need to rethink how we want to do deploy boards, and we don't want to step on each other's toes.
Let me write that up here. Bigger discussion around deploy boards. Might make sense to have this as the next topic in a big think big cross-functional.
Yeah.
Meeting. I'll offer there. I'll do my typing later.
Oh, that's fine.
It's good. It's good enough for me for now.
Yeah.
Let me see. Show error rate, roll out new feature flags. So we're gone on that.
A good news for you for the jobs to be done.
Sorry?
I have good news for you for the jobs to be done.
Always happy to hear that.
So I just want to give a background to Lori and Nicole so they understand what we're talking about. So we're revisiting our maturity for CD. CD is currently at complete, and its next maturity level is lovable. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we're not at complete. So I want to revisit and do a rebase of the baseline of what the maturity level is now. And the reason I'm saying this is because we currently don't support cloud deployments and we don't support advanced deployments like blue-green, traffic vectoring, traffic shaping. So I think it's like we're kind of lying to ourselves saying that we're complete. So we decided to go back and ask users what they think about the maturity level. The biggest problem with it is that CD is such a huge category that there's so many jobs to be done that we can have Dimitri work on this all year and he would still not finish. So keeping that in mind, I spoke to Jason and I'm planning on opening an MR to change the category from CD. So today we have 3.5 categories in progressive delivery. One of them, the 1.5 is CD and the half is incremental rollout, which I made a marketing category because it just didn't justify itself on its own. So what I'm going to propose is bringing back incremental rollout from marketing to an actual category, but changing it to advanced deployment. So it will include everything: Canary, incremental rollout, advanced deployment, traffic shaping, traffic vectoring, load balancer. So we have a bunch of work around that. And I think that deserves its own category. And then CD is going to take all that out of it. And what I want to rename it. I don't have a good name. If anyone has a suggestion, I'm open to it. We kind of need to keep CD in there so it's easy to find, but what it actually is going to be is, this is an extension of the CI YAML file and all those functionalities. So we have a bunch of things like resource groups that were introduced, or forked pipelines that you had in the upcoming column, Dimitri. So these are all like basically extending the YAML file, but it's not necessarily like something that has to do with this new concept of deployment. It's just like making it easier. I don't know what the word is. So that's deployment to cloud, and everything that we're doing now, which is post deployment, which activates something on the deployment, like we're doing now with the rollback or halting. So that's my thinking, is making this smaller so that we can tackle it easier when we're doing this research. But not only, like, beside creating a maturity plan, just creating any plan. So just making everything easier. So it's smaller bits.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so for the jobs to be done, have you talked with Tim to see how he and Ian approached trying to figure out, like, if they had the right jobs to be done and they get prioritization around it from their customers? Because it might be helpful for you guys to go through that process too. They used a survey, but they basically brainstormed all the tasks, created jobs to be done, brought engineering in to give them feedback on that list. Then Ian created a survey and sent it out. I think he had like 60 people fill it out. And the flow was, pick your top 2 jobs to be done, and then you're going to answer some questions around those, and then help force rank some pieces of those. And then at the end, anything else did we miss, kind of thing. And so it really helped them to understand what was priority for users, and so they could help use that to focus what they were doing. And in there, I think there is a question to ask that they asked in the survey to the participant, like, what do you feel? Where do you feel we fit on the maturity scale with each of these jobs to be done that you say are important to you? So I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I'll try to schedule something.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'll just try to schedule a meeting with them.
All right, yeah, I also, I believe Ian laid out this process as well in his UX scorecard video.
Yes. Wherever that is, yes.
All right, I'll get back to this later. Anyway, that's good. Running features. Any of those issues here up next that you say, like, hey, I need to swap out?
Yeah, filter feature flags by status. We're not going to get around to it. I don't know if we'll get around to it this year. You can like totally move that out. The first one, my fruit voting system. It's really interesting. Honestly, I have no idea what to do here, if I'm being totally honest. It seemed like we had a specific course to go on, and we had, a direction of what we want to implement here. And then while customers were providing feedback, we figured out that there's like a ton of use cases that are hidden behind this one issue. So what I'm trying to figure out, I need to split out all these different use cases into different issues. But what Shenya tried to do was he asked people to vote, the customers themselves that were giving us feedback, on what they use so we can figure out what's the most popular. So he was using bananas and apples, and then we added another use case which added pineapples. So it's not a process. It's nothing formal. We're just trying to figure out based on upvotes what people were using.
And they were just using the bananas or whatever to do
Yeah.
the votes with.
Yeah, there's nothing like sophisticated here. They like
I love it.
we were just trying to figure out like what's the majority because we need to start with one. And I don't really think this really needs research. We probably need to do everything, but I just wanted to get an indication of what to start from. With fruits, it doesn't get any vegetarian mad.
That was for allow fork pipelines to run in parallel project, right? So it's currently a little bit at a standstill.
It's not at a standstill. It's very much active. But there's just a lot of ongoing discussion and there's not a decision. We're probably going to end up swapping this with a different issue that Chinya wants to work on first, which is going to upset a bunch of people. But it is what it is.
Gotcha.
This is the most popular issue that we have currently in release.
In terms of UX, this is kind of at a good state already, I would say, or not. Let me see, because in the bottom there were all these questions from Jason.
Yeah.
And it seems like, does this need like a new concept defined to it, or new scoped off, etc.?
So here's the thing. I'm going to explain this really simply, but it's obviously more complex. The way that this works is that you're giving people permission to use your stuff. So imagine someone goes into your house and they have to ask explicitly permission to turn on the TV or to open the fridge or to use your bathroom. So we want that behavior and that someone using that's not part of my project will not be able to use any resource that I haven't explicitly given to them, which makes it a UX nightmare because it means that you need to have this list of things that if it's not stated and you haven't checked it off, then A, you have to explicitly write it and you have to create this huge list of features or resources. B, make sure that nothing, this is already permissions, but make sure that nothing else is permitted while you checked only one thing. So that's, I think, the biggest part of this issue in terms of UX that we need to overcome. How do we create this huge matrix of stuff? And I think the right approach is do it iteratively again. So we don't start with a list, we start with one thing, then we add two, but we need to keep in mind that this is a growing list of things that might need paging or might need sorting. So at some far away time in the future, we might need to have this like super complicated UX here.
Gotcha. In that case, because this issue seems already in dev, but that is in that case not true.
It is because they started working on it a while ago. If you go up, you could see the related MRs.
Yeah, I believe you. So the thing is, like, it seems as this issue is both already in development and the concept still needs to be figured out. Like,
well,
how
yeah,
can it be both at the same time?
That's development for you. I mean, Nicole will also contest to that. I mean, we started out something, then it turns out it was more complicated and a bunch of questions we started raising. Then, you know, the good thing and bad thing about GitLab is that people contribute. So a bunch of people were talking on the issue themselves, like, hey, this doesn't solve my problem. They were like, okay, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. So that's just how the history. It's also a pretty old issue.
So should this be upgraded to an epic and then sub-issues created from it?
Probably, but as I mentioned, I'm still not 100% clear on what we need to do. And it's probably going to be swapped out with the other issue. So that's probably what I'm going to do is promote this and create issues from everything that came out from here. But now you know the fruit system, so at least there's that.
All right, thanks for that. All right, seems that we're at a good state here. Filter feature flags, that's an interest, sorry. Request delivery material scorecards, that's up next. Confirmation mentioned when generating feature flag in society. This was also discussed during the previous meeting, I believe, but this is back in backlog. I was wondering how important this still is, as it has been returned to backlog.
It's not in our Q1 goals. It'll be great if Nicole, if the new person that's joining could tackle it, but it's not in the priority.
Okay.
I think we're over time and I have to get ready for another meeting that I have in a few minutes.
Yeah, let me see if the other things I would still like to discuss. We got that. Check out items, confirmation. Would it be possible for you to check these items asynchronously and add your comments there so I can check on them tomorrow?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. For all others, there are some comments in there. If you have any thoughts towards the topic, please add your thoughts to it and I'll get to them tomorrow.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining and till next time.
Bye.
See you in a few. Bye.